a little video. Cowards get their friends together so that they can instigate and succeed at winning, quote unquote, in an altercation. Normal people group together with their friends to avoid confrontations. Next, we all do things to protect ourselves. This is rather important to realize that self-protection, our ability to not be miserable, now we call that self-care or whatever, is also thrown into this. The need not to be right, just to not be completely wrong so that we can live with ourselves, sometimes overrides our ability to deal with reality and other people. Now, I'm prefacing this video not just to fill in the time at the front to prevent the algorithm from flagging it because it's going to be on a controversial subject, but because this is needing emphasis. I'm going to make a set of statements that will make people angry with me, maybe irrationally angry, because of the way they sound. Now, I want to point out something in not just the English language, but languages used even for computers or for processes for accomplishing a task. The peanut butter and jelly sandwich test, if any of you have taken it, is, if you're familiar with this, or not, I'll explain it. You have to write out a set of instructions that are complete enough for a person to understand the exact sequence of events to use without any presumptions or actions proactively taken. For someone who is presented with a container of peanut butter, another container of jelly, and a loaf of bread in a wrapper, you can even specify that they're in a particular pattern with a butter knife on the table, in the middle of the table. Exactly how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich without screwing it up. And if you're not aware of it, that process of explaining to someone how to do something, or explaining to someone, and this is the important part, a sequence of events from beginning to end that either has a purpose or is what happened in reality, is extraordinarily difficult. Human beings can string these ideas together. To date, we only have recordings of potentially, we have to say potentially concerning Keiko, of two other species that can do this. A gorilla that can do sign language, which we're now pretty sure it really wasn't sign language. And, no joke, a parrot, a single bird example, ironically they were related to the dinosaurs, that could communicate in sentences. That we have one. Okay, I want to point this out. This is the planet that fostered intelligent life in the form of humans. That's as far as we know. And if you're not aware of it, billions and billions isn't really just a meme. There's a billion different species on this planet. And of those, the one that can string a sentence together, besides prairie dogs, they actually do use grammar, but they don't use sentences. But they can describe abstract objects. I just want to point that out, not ideas, but they can describe the color range they can see, which is the limited one, and they can describe, we've been able to figure it out, they can describe things by shape, and they do top to bottom order like we do. Okay? That's as far as we've gotten with intelligent life on this planet. It's us, a single example of a parrot, and as far as we know, a prairie dog. Not the dolphins or the whales. Okay? And yeah, as far as sign language, primates, which would be closer related to us than a bird or a prairie dog, although I prefer to be more closely related to prairie dogs and chipmunks and stuff. Nothing closely related to us is able to do what we can do. We are complete freaks. Okay? So, give every alien species on every planet that hasn't figured out radio transmission, reception, and how to build their own version of the Hubble and other equipment in space, because that's the only way to do it, we found out. Forgive them for not giving us a call back when we send out the great messages we've done and the plaques. And they're not going to respond even if they're intelligent. If you're not aware of it, if you're more than literally the next solar system over, the closest one we got, go look up its distance. Beyond that distance, the likelihood of being able to discern a radio signal is nearly zero, including the multiple gigawatt radio transmissions that were made by the Russians to try to block radio transmissions from the United States. We're literally dealing with the largest power output we have ever seen. Can't get past the next solar system. That's a very short distance on the galactic scale. Okay. And again, if you're not aware of the statistics, the majority of people, like all people in a school class, and 99.99% of college students learning to write programming languages for robots can't do the peanut butter example. You have to specifically learn how to do it if you want to learn how to do a robot. And I'm the guy, just like everybody else did in a robotics class, I'm the guy who taught the robot to unscrew its own bolts or try to unplug itself and commit suicide. Okay? We're the most intelligent species on the planet. And you already know how scary that sounds. We might be the most intelligent species in the galaxy. That should terrify the dog shit out of you. Okay? But when we communicate things, and yes, I'm not wasting 6 minutes. I want to emphasize this. I want to slam this. Just like the procedure from start to end to do something, me saying, this is how the day started and this is how it ends, I have to do this in a way that makes it to where it's not ambiguous because I wish to communicate something with no subtlety. I want to be completely brutalist about what happened. And because we're social animals, I'm trying to head off any misinterpretations a person could have, and more importantly, deliberately have because they don't like the conclusion I come to. Or not even the conclusion. If I'm doing my communications correctly, I'm describing what really happened. If someone objects to reality being presented to them in a YouTube video or in a newscast where there's no edits to it from beginning to end showing what happened, and you don't like how it makes you feel, so you start looking for blue meanies and photoshopping and editing and saying it's all CG or it's stage. You already know what I'm talking about, right? So this is the uphill battle I have in reality when I make a video of any kind. Why am I doing this video? I'm a victim of domestic abuse. I'm also a victim of I guess we'll have to say it, societal, institutional abuse. And also a benefactor of it. So are all of you. I was born in the year 1968. Now, this is a year, obviously because it's my birth year, I'm going to fixate on things that started then. But really, according to most academics, it is that time, there's a range of times, but it's in that time when in the United States there was a paradigm shift of attitude that more than 50% of the human population, we're not talking about voting aloud population, we're talking about the people who were able to be counted, not just by votes, but by people just asking them, finally said that a bunch of bullshit rules about the majority of the rest of the population should go away. If you're not aware of it, no, WAPTEC is not talking about minorities or a minority. If you take all the minority populations that were treated like shit and it was part of, it was codified in the law or whatever, that's the majority of people in the United States. Not the least of it was women. Women weren't allowed to have bank accounts. Women, a bunch of dumb bullshit rules we all know are bullshit now. I represent, at my age, over 50, the age of what I'm going to call the no bullshit era. It's supposed to be no bullshit. And you're all existing in it. I'm in my 50s. Statistically speaking, the majority of people who are watching this or who could be alive right now are within that time range. Because there's this bell curve of how we age, and go look it up. But the point is, the majority of you have existed in a world that is vastly superior, objectively, than previous eras. Whether you like it or not may be an indication you don't like the outcome, but you can't make an argument that we're better off. Or not. We are. Because we have a woman vice president, we had a black president, we're going to have a female president. I'm not joking. I I'm not joking about this. I don't like the Republican Party right now, but I like the Republicans that are not crazy and are therefore not interested in Trumpism. I'm okay with us having a female president who is anti-Trump. I'm not kidding. We might be worse off, but that would really tamp down the shitbaggery in this country. Do you argue with me on this point? Again, I am against one-party rule in North Korea. I'm against one-party rule in the United States. I've never seen a year that was a good thing. The only time it was good, it was when it was 50-50 exactly, and they had no choice. Nobody got what they wanted that they were bribed to get done unless they cooperated. And suddenly a bunch of useful shit got done. And we don't ever talk about it when we get shit done. But the Equal Rights Amendment was never actually passed, if you're not aware of it. That's not okay. That seems like a given, doesn't it? Some of you even presumed that the ERA was passed, if you've ever heard of it. It wasn't. Now I'm going to bring up a personal issue here. The benefit I got from this is that I grew up in a world, after I got out of high school and stuff, that didn't tell me I had to do whatever my dad did, and didn't tell me I had any limitations. I went to school to learn to be an electrical engineer or electronics engineering technician, and ended up being a computer geek. I didn't even bother picking up the diploma for what I had learned or the credits for it. It didn't matter. I was looking for a job, and honestly, the college wasn't teaching me anything. If you're not aware of it, colleges, you need to learn on your own. But aside from the benefits of that, and that has nothing to do with what you might think it does. It's just that the world is just better, period. There's a downside. I grew up during an era where people were told not to be honest with each other, but they were also told people were told to be honest. I grew up during a period of time where people started saying all men are bastards. You should presume that, which at the time in the 1970s was assumed. It's not genetics. You're not born that way. You don't have to be a jerk because you're male or whatever you're assuming about your race, creed, color. Those are not real. Society teaches you it's okay to do things. You do them, you become a bastard if you give in to permissiveness in your society. But I've also been a victim of this. I'm going to make a statement at this video point here. Don't watch the video after this point if you want to love me or respect me. I have had a dozen or maybe 2 dozen, I don't know which number because I'm not allowed to know the number, of incidents where women have, to everybody else's opinion, demonstrated an obvious attraction to me. And all across the age spectrum. And very few of them ever told me they were interested in me because they wanted me to figure it out. Or not. I don't know their intentions, so I don't know. But the point is, years later I get told, I had a crush on you, or I was attracted to you. Now, that's obviously selection bias. I'm only listening to the ones who told me that, right? But others that I thought might be attracted to me eventually said so too. So I was reading their intentions correctly when they said, hey, let's go out on a date and maybe have fun afterwards. Direct quote for 90% of the people. Yes, I kept track. Yes, I'm a male. If a girl says I look handsome, I'll remember it for the rest of my life. Get over it. I remember the compliments. But I grew up being insulted and told I was ugly because my face looked different. I just saw a picture recently of what I looked like at a specific year. I'm really frightened to look up. And I was objectively an attractive looking man. That's because I didn't recognize the guy in the picture. I was told chronically I'm ugly, unattractive, I'll never have anybody, and I never bothered trying. I was conditioned never to try. And then I was conditioned by society, don't push. And now I'm conditioned by society, don't even bother. If that makes me sound like an incel, I'm not involuntarily celibate. That's not what's going on. I'm voluntarily not in a relationship because I now realize I'm not allowed to have one because society won't acknowledge that maybe I should be allowed to. And I'm not owed a relationship. But shouldn't I be allowed to be told I could have had one? I think I should. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that.